As the chairman of the Soldiers Monument Commission of the town of Winchester, city of Winstead, I would like to welcome you to the virtual 2020 Memorial Day ceremony. The commission members who have organized the Memorial Day ceremony in the East End Park for the past several years didn't want to allow our remembrances of soldiers who have died fighting for our country to pass in this year because of COVID-19 isolation. We have put together a ceremony in this film that we trust gives the honor due to these soldiers on this Memorial Day. Memorial Day starts with a lowering of the flag. This ceremony is conducted by Commission Member Doug Warner, a veteran of the Vietnam War. Now let us stand and honor our country as the national anthem is played.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous heights o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? For the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Now, I would like to introduce Mayor Althea Candy Perez.
Memorial Day is a time across the country when we take time to reflect on the sacrifices of our servicemen and women, especially those who have made the noblest sacrifice. I'm Candy Perez, Mayor of the town of Winchester, and on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, I would like to take a moment to honor those in our community that have served our country. This year, we have been presented with the challenge of the COVID virus. We do not have a parade or large gatherings, but maybe we can connect on a deeper level with the purpose of Memorial Day. We can take lessons from those that gave the greatest sacrifice and those that served with them. Our way of life was shaped by them in so many ways. Servicemen and women gave us demonstrations of courage and strength through difficult times during the times our country was tested in a war. During these times, communities pulled together to support their efforts through rationing, donations, sacrifice, victory gardens, and doing for others. At this time, while we do not face the same intense challenge of a battlefield, we do face challenge with the COVID virus that is scary, uncomfortable, and deadly to some. During this time, we can draw on the courage and sacrifice of our servicemen and women have. Courage and sacrifice to help your fellow members in the community, especially the most vulnerable. I have witnessed this incredible compassion in our community over the past few months and know it will continue as long as needed. As Jennifer Granholm said at a Memorial Day ceremony a few years ago, ceremonies are important, but our gratitude has to be more than visits to the troops and once a year Memorial Day ceremonies. We honor the dead best by treating the living well. A parade is not the only way to honor our servicemen and women. Stories of sacrifice in our community of hometown heroes is kept alive by Soldiers Monument Commission, VFW, and American Legion Post. Take time to visit our monuments in the parks and cemeteries with your family to reflect on the sacrifices of many and to keep the traditions of remembrance alive. Memories are never forgotten and sacrifice never unappreciated. On behalf of the community, we say thank you to everyone that gave their all.
As it has been our tradition, we will now have the delivery of an original poem by East Lake Street resident Gail Hoxie, who won first prize in the poetry contest sponsored by the commission.
A different color flower. Poppies grew by the small crosses where the land had been churned and turned from boots digging in and shells stealing lives that were buried in the ground. The Decoration Day lore, the land healed and offered bright red poppies after the war. And so we decorate the graves of those we have lost and now call it Memorial Day. 2020 Memorial Day is such a strange war, still stealing lives as we fight hard, fighting the unseen COVID across the globe and burying the ones we love, sometimes in hasty graves. What will the bright colored flower be when this war is
I would now like to introduce Deidre Houlihan DeCara, who will give the Memorial Day address. Deidre has a long history with the ceremony in the park. As a youth, she was called upon to read the poem In Flanders Field during many Memorial Day celebrations. For more than 30 years, through Girl Scouting, she has participated in the Memorial Day Parade. Her father, Captain John Houlihan, served in World War II. And now, Deidre Houlihan DeCara.
Veterans and fellow residents of Winsted and Winchester Center. I'm humbled and deeply honored to be invited to present this year's Memorial Day address. Memorial Day is a special day annually set to remember those in our military and patriots who have made the greatest sacrifice in service to our country, the United States of America. Since 1868, following the Civil War, we have gathered in our communities to place flags and flowers on the graves of those who have given their lives in devotion to our country and to the freedoms we should never take for granted. We honor those giving our greatest respect as they did their duty to protect our freedom and way of life, to be free. Their ultimate sacrifice of their lives was for our freedom and for those of future generations. This particular Memorial Day of 2020 is unlike any we have ever experienced in our lifetime. I'm so pleased that our should-be parade organizers from the Soldiers Monument Commission have found the electronic means to conduct our remembrance service for veterans during this coronavirus pandemic. And while we reserve this special holiday to honor our fallen heroes, in this unprecedented time of social distancing and protocols for health and safety, let us remember our heroes of today on the front lines serving our nation. I'd like us to recognize the citizens in our country, our neighbors, who are considered essential workers in the battle with COVID-19. Let us salute our healthcare workers. current military and government employees, community leaders, those giving service at grocery stores, delivering necessities, restaurants, food pantries, homeless shelters, teaching, anyone stepping up to provide services to those in need. Let us recognize their bravery and courage to rise every day to help others facing this silent, deadly foe. I truly miss the opportunity to march in this year's Memorial Day parade. Memorial Day has been set in my heart by my dad, Captain John J. Houlihan, who served in World War II. He raised us to participate in the day, attending ceremonies to honor and thank our veterans, yet to also be mindful that we should do this every day of the year. And so I have marched in our area parades for over 40 years, more than 3 decades as a Girl Scout, with most of those years as a professional Girl Scout as executive for our Northwestern Connecticut Council, where over the years I had the privilege to instill the meaning of patriotism and respect for those who have served our country in the military, saluting those who have passed before us, to thousands of girls as they matured to be responsible citizens. And today, having changed my nonprofit leadership role to serving the hungry and the homeless at FISH, Friends in Service to Humanity of Northwestern Connecticut, I now lead our area's homeless veterans in the Torrington Parade. I'll share that the first year, in 2013, our FISH vets were extremely apprehensive. Yet I encourage them to stand tall and be proud of having served our nation. Well, as they marched down the parade route to a wave of applause, I was thrilled for our vets of the FISH shelter as they stood prouder with every step they took. Before I close, I'd like to share some memorable thoughts and quotes that I hope will never be forgotten. In 1984, 2 decades before he became a U.S. Supreme Court Justice, Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. gave an address in Keene, New Hampshire, as a veteran of the Civil War, entitled, "Our Hearts Were Touched with Fire." To quote, "Such hearts, ah me, how many, were stilled 20 years ago, and to us a pause, and through the silence we hear the lonely pipes of death." Year after year, lovers wandering under the apple trees and through the clover and deep grass are surprised with sudden tears as they see black-veiled figures stealing through the morning to a soldier's grave. Year after year, the comrades of the dead follow with public honor, procession and commemorative flags and funeral march, honor and grief from us who stand almost alone and have seen the best and the noblest of our generation pass away. And you'll see a theme in 3 quotes that I would like to share, all by United States presidents. From President John F. Kennedy, who was also a World War II veteran, "As we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them." From President Ronald Reagan, also a World War II veteran, "And if words cannot repay the debt we owe these men, surely with our actions, we must strive to keep faith with them and with the vision that led them to battle and to sacrifice." And from President Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR, who had served as Assistant Secretary of the Navy during World War I and as our nation's leader during World War II, "Those who have long enjoyed such privileges as we enjoy forget in time that men have died to win them." To close, returning to our pandemic reality of today, may I ask that on this Memorial Day, try to take some time to think about the gallant men and women from our hometowns and from across the nation who have served and died, yet will never be forgotten. May God bless America, and may we hope for a peace, a restoration to good health, and for a resilience in our world. Yet never should we forget to be kind, caring, selfless, and courageous as we champion for those in need. Thank you.
Commission members will now read the names of the 116 soldiers from our town who died in wars defending our country. Caretakers of the Soldiers Monument and Memorial Park on Crown Street have researched as best as possible these names and apologize to those who have lost a family member in one of the wars if we have missed that person's name. We will be reading the names of 116 people who died. From the American Revolution, where most of our residents saw some fighting, 2 died during the war. Oliver Cox, Gideon Wilcoxon. From the Civil War, where more than 323 of our residents saw fighting, 60 died during the war. Those who died:
James R. Baldwin, Samuel C. Barber, George Bellows, Jacob T. Brown, Alfred Burdick, James M. Burton, William F. Cogswell, Alfred Comins, Fred Daniels, Louis Dayton, Robert Dempsey, James A. Dolphin, George Downs, Lucas Eggleston, Jared P. Evarts, Myron Ferris, Matthew Fitzgerald, Elliot Fleming, Birdsey Gibbs, Charles Gilbert, James A. Green, Manwaring Green, Michael Haggerty, William Hart, Hugh Hay, Lewis Hazard, Edward Hazard, Benjamin F. Hosford, and Myron N. Hubbard.
William R. Hubbard, Alonzo J. Hall, Asa Humiston, George W. Hurlbut, William S. Hurlbut, Henry C. Kent, Edward B. Kenny, Charles Madra, Walter Martin, Charles E. Palmer, Jerome Preston, Augustus Richwine, Hiram C. Roberts, Julius Rogers, Edward E. Rowe, Charles St. John, John B. Sinclair, William H. Slack, Darwin S. Stark, John M. Teeter, Julius Thorne, Albert M. Tuttle, John K. Twiss, Cassius Watson, William S. Watson, John B. Welch, Mark H. Wheeler, Howard S. Wheeler, Julius Woodford, Columbus C. Wright. From the Spanish-American War, 15 residents served. No deaths were recorded of those who served from this town. From World War I, where more than 600 residents served, 11 died in the war. Those who died:
Leonard F. Burns, Edward E. Fitzgerald, Thomas A. Meehan, James E. Madra, Fred N. Harborough, Patrick Martin, George M. Tuttle, William Burns, Ronald A. Penny, Frederick E. Danahy, Russell L. Johnson.
From World War II, more than 1,551 men and women served from this town. 39 died in the war. Those who died:
C. Beeman, David Bernstein, Alexander Brault, John H. Canty, Joseph H. Carr, William DeRose, Kenneth Dietland, Walter J. Dombrowski, George Dyson, John A. Eddy, Joseph English, William Finn, Kenneth Fox, Eugene K. Franklin, Joseph Greco, Philip J. Green, Porter Griffin, Harold Hack, William C. Hall, Andrew Huska.
Clayton Jones, William Joyce, Lawrence Kelson, Francis Lemlin, Dwight Manhew, Ralph Mochak, Alfred Motolini, George Newth, Theodore Olzonsky, Paul Picard, Andrew Pokwalak, Richard Price, Walter Reichold, Eugene Royer, John Stella, Edmund Stalker, Richard Waldron, Joseph Voigt, William Zelenek Jr.
from the Korean conflict. Many of our residents served in this war. One died: Harry H. Sherman, Jr. From the Vietnam War. Many of our residents served in this war. 3 died. Those who died:
J. A. Tony Mahowski, Edward J. Hayberry, James C. Strano.
This concludes our ceremony today, but it should not end your remembrance on this day or any other day of the year of those who have given their lives for our country. The 9 members of the Soldiers Monument Commission recognize the historical importance and aesthetic value of the Soldiers Monument, a symbolic icon of the town of Winchester. Our mission is to protect, preserve, and enhance this nationally recognized landmark while providing a clean and safe park for all residents and visitors. The memorial on Crown Street will not be open today, Memorial Day, as it has traditionally been. We hope that our social distancing will allow us to be open on July 4th, when we have a reading of the Declaration of Independence beginning at 3 p.m., and invite those who attend to read sections of the Declaration. I want to take this last minute to thank 2 outstanding young men, Dylan Avery, who graduated last year from the Gilbert School, and Cash Pack, who graduated this spring from the University of Connecticut, for putting this remembrance together. We could not have provided this Memorial Day honoring without their creative and technical assistance. Thank you again for watching. Be well and safe.